Welcome back to Klepper's Corner, the only place where we try to make sense of world events using nothing but sarcasm, graphics, and whatever's left of your Wi-Fi after Google Cloud goes down. Today is June 16th, 2025, or as it's known in the White House, Happy Trump Day every day forever. And folks, the headlines are coming in hotter than the Earth's core, or at least whatever Elon Musk is doing with his Mars toaster. International conflict? Check. Political violence? Check. Trump launching a phone company while still being president? Oh yeah, because if there's one thing this administration needed, it was a customer support line with Eric Trump on the other end, saying, have you tried turning a constitution off and on again? We've got airstrikes over Tehran, journalists under digital attack, and Indiana becoming the unlikely ground zero for both peaceful protests and pepper spray cannon cosplay. So buckle up, grab your gold-plated Trump mobile, and if you're watching from a fallout shelter or a bar in downtown Indy, good call either way, because this is Klepper's Corner. Klepper's Corner, breaking news, June 16, 2025. Segment 1, Israel and Iran, or how to start World War III in 4 days or less. What do you get when you combine nuclear ambition, missile envy, and centuries of mutual loathing? You get Monday. Israel and Iran continued their all-you-can-launch missile buffet today. Iran dropped another 100 love letters on Israel's head, pushing the Israeli death toll to 24 and injuries to over 500. And Israel? Oh, they went full home makeover Tehran edition on Iran, claiming aerial superiority and knocking out 120 missile launchers like they were playing whack-a-mole. One Israeli official claimed their jets could now fly over Iran, quote, without threat, which, let's be honest, sounds less like a military update and more like a drunken dare. Meanwhile, Iran vowed its next strikes would be, quote, more forceful, severe, precise, and destructive, which ironically sounds like every feedback note I've ever gotten from YouTube comments. Let's talk damage. Israel's been flattening command centers, missile bases, and even the basement of Fordo, where Iran stores its advanced centrifuges, also known as nuclear spin class. And Iran's been doing its part too, mostly by losing top military leaders faster than the Knicks lose playoff games. Seriously, they're dropping generals like Netflix drops original series. Kazemi? Gone. Hajizada? Toast. Mansour Askari, the guy who helped build nukes pre-2003, vaporized. At this point, Iran's military is being run by whoever draws the short straw at breakfast. And in a very not subtle subplot, Iran executed a guy they claim was a Mossad spy. Because if you're not paranoid during a war, are you even trying? Here's the kicker. Israel claims Iran's missile output is already slowing because their airstrikes are working. It's less of a tit for tat and more of a tit for total infrastructure collapse. Meanwhile, Trump vetoed an Israeli plan to assassinate Ayatollah Khamenei, which is the diplomatic equivalent of saying, hey, maybe don't hit the beehive with a flaming sword. Now, both sides are kinda, maybe sorta signaling they're open to stopping if the other side blinks first. So basically, we're in the world's most lethal staring contest. Segment 2, G7 Summit or Six Friends and that guy. The G7 Summit kicked off in Canada, where the 7 most powerful democracies met to pretend they still agree on things. Spoiler alert, they don't. No joint statement, not even a group selfie. This isn't a summit, it's Thanksgiving dinner with global powers who stopped talking after Brexit and Trump's last roast of Trudeau. Topics included the Israel-Iran war, Ukraine, Gaza, immigration, climate change, artificial intelligence, and the ever-popular Trump screws the global economy expansion pack. Trump showed up with his classic combo platter: trade wars, fossil fuels, and open disdain for group projects. He met with Canada's Mark Carney, Ukraine's Zelensky, and Mexico's Claudia Sheinbaum. You know, just your usual diplomatic speed dating session. New leaders like Keir Starmer of the UK and Friedrich Merz of Germany got to experience the G7 for the first time, like orientation day at a very dysfunctional Hogwarts. Meanwhile, Japan's PM Shigeru Ishiba sat quietly, waiting for someone to ask about chip exports. Without a unified statement, the G7 is basically a glorified brunch where everyone agrees the food's terrible, but no one wants to blame the chef. Segment 3, Minnesota's manhunt and the anti-democracy hit list. In Minnesota, democracy just took a bullet, or several. Vance Bolter, a 57-year-old fake cop with real guns, allegedly murdered State Representative Melissa Hortman and her husband, then shot State Senator John Hoffman and his wife. Because apparently when you disagree with someone's politics, the new American way is try assassination. Bolter left behind a hit list with 70 names, lawmakers, activists, and even clinics, which is horrifying and honestly a planning spreadsheet more detailed than anything Congress has produced in a decade. The guy also had flyers referencing No Kings, a protest movement against Trump. So congratulations, everyone. Even peaceful protest slogans can now be co-opted by armed lunatics. Authorities said if they hadn't found him when they did, the killings would have continued all day. That's not politics, that's terrorism in a Costco polo shirt. And now, as always, everyone's wondering, how do we stop political violence in a country where even red hats are considered fighting words? Segment 4, Trump Mobile. The grift has coverage now. Guess what launched today? That's right, Trump Mobile. Because when you've failed in steaks, vodka, and a casino, the next logical step is telecommunications. The T1 Mobile is gold-colored, because of course it is, and promises free texts, calls, and even telehealth. Nothing says trustworthy medical advice like a phone service created by a man who suggested bleach as a vaccine. Cost $47.45 a month. Why $47.45? Because it sounds like he's the 47th president already. Subtle, right? Eric Trump said, quote, "Hardworking Americans deserve a wireless service that reflects their values." So, dropped calls and inflated bills. And let's not forget, this is happening while Trump is literally president. That's like the Surgeon General launching a vape pen. It's a direct conflict of interest, unless you're Trump, in which case it's just called Monday. The Trump brand now covers hotels, and hotspot-enabled grifting. Who needs policy when you've got product? Segment 5, the Washington Post hack and the cyber panic room. The Washington Post got hit by hackers this week. A bunch of journalists' email accounts were targeted because nothing says national security threat like a columnist working on an op-ed titled, "The GOP Needs Better Hats." Who did it? Rhetorical. We don't know yet, but everyone's betting on foreign government, which in 2025 could mean Russia, China, or even some guy in North Korea who just got promoted from spam emails to cyber warfare. The Post had to reset logins for the entire newsroom. That's 200 reporters who now have to remember a new password. That's not Trump 2024 $ or MAGA Lover 69. But this isn't just about snooping emails. This is espionage, people. State-backed sabotage designed to find out who's leaking what, when, and to whom. And while you're at it, maybe blackmail a couple of sources just to spice things up. And all of this happened while Google freaking Cloud went down for 7 hours. Coincidence? Maybe. But when your main investigative outlet is under attack and your storage service says BRB, it's starting to feel like the internet is being run by an overworked raccoon in a server farm. If this keeps up, journalists will be forced to do what they fear most: talk to people in person. Segment 6, Air India crash. Tragedy, trauma, and true heroes. Sometimes humanity rises from horror. On June 12th, an Air India plane slammed into a medical college in Ahmedabad, killing at least 270 people, including 29 on the ground. And as the wreckage burned, as smoke filled every hallway, the people who ran toward the flames weren't firefighters, they were trainee doctors. These students, most of them barely out of their teens, pulled injured friends from the rubble, patched wounds, and then clocked into trauma shifts like it was just another Tuesday. One guy jumped out a window, cleaned his own bloody leg, and then helped dozens more. Another dragged people from a flaming mess of twisted metal and glass, then calmly resumed hospital duty. No viral dances, no grandstanding, just empathy, adrenaline, and medical school debt. This story didn't trend on Twitter. There was no GoFundMe campaign, no angry politician trying to make it about himself. But it's worth remembering that when the world collapses, literally, it's usually the quiet professionals who hold the line. Segment 7, Indiana, where democracy marches and law enforcement launches air cannons. Let's go local. On June 14th, downtown Indianapolis was a perfect storm of irony and democracy. Over 3,000 Hoosiers protested against President Trump's birthday and his policies, while the Indy Pride Parade marched right through the middle of it like democracy's colorful conga line. Some folks shouted "No Kings," others wore rainbow tutus, and some brave souls managed to do both. It was America in its weirdest, most chaotic, and yet most peaceful form. Then early Sunday, the vibe shifted. A viral video showed a police officer using a high-pressure air launcher to fire into a crowd, tackling a man who allegedly resisted. The guy had weed, a weapon, and the wrong place to vape. IMPD says the incident will be reviewed. Translation, we'll look into it once the heat dies down and we finish writing this press release. And while Indiana was busy hosting democracy's flash mob, elsewhere in the state, things were less festive. A 17-year-old was killed in Kokomo. A mass shooting in Elkhart left 11 injured. In Indianapolis, a man was shot and multiple businesses were hit in a downtown shootout. So yeah, Indiana is juggling both sides of the American experiment. Celebration and chaos, protest and policing, and occasionally political violence tucked between birthday cake and batons. Segment 8, Trump's public media purge and the $90 million lottery distraction. While you're watching the NBA Finals or figuring out if you're the next Powerball millionaire, Congress did what Congress does best: dismantle something useful. On June 13th, the House approved Trump's plan to claw back $9.4 billion in funding, including $1.1 billion for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. That's PBS, that's NPR, that's your grandma's favorite classical radio station and the only TV host who taught you to count using puppets. NPR's CEO said stations could go dark. Not in a cool HBO way, more like the "we now return you to static and the sound of democracy fading" way. Meanwhile, Trump's budget is totally fine with more money for Trump. He's building golf resorts in Vietnam and selling gold phones in Florida. But Big Bird's apparently too woke and too expensive. But don't worry. The Powerball is up to $90 million. So maybe if you win, you can single-handedly fund a new season of Frontline or finally give Elmo that dental plan he deserves. Segment 9, NBA Finals, F1 chaos, and Le Mans glory. And finally, sports, because the one place where America still pretends to be united is yelling at the TV during Game 5. The NBA Finals are tied 2-2. The Thunder are trying to shock the world, pun absolutely intended, and the Pacers are doing their best to prove Indiana still exists outside of cornfields and crime stats. Jalen Williams put up 27 points in Game 4, and league MVP Shai Gilgeous-Alexander added 35. That's not a stat line, it's a rescue mission. If this duo gets any hotter, we'll need FEMA to cool off the court. Meanwhile, in Canada, George Russell won the F1 Grand Prix after McLaren teammates Piastri and Norris decided to turn racing into bumper cars. And in France, the 24 hours of Le Mans saw Robert Kubica and Yifei take the win, marking the first time a Pole and a Chinese driver shared that podium. Not since the UN had a potluck has international cooperation tasted so sweet. Closing thoughts. The world is on fire. Sometimes metaphorically, sometimes literally. And whether it's gold-plated phones, collapsing summits, or cyber-hacked journalists, the message is clear. We are in the middle of a historic chapter where power, technology, and ego all collide, often in the most American way possible, with fireworks, lawsuits, and maybe a halftime show. So hug your first responders. Charge your phone before Google crashes again, and if a Trump-branded mobile asks for your social security number, just run. We'll be back tomorrow. Same time, same Klepper.